We went to Tahiti in order to join our cruise on the Aranui 5. We hadn't been in Tahiti in 51 years. We were first there in our first sailboat, and BACCHUS. And what a change, Papeete. Instead of a sleepy little country town, it was now quite a vibrant big city. But the view from our balcony was pretty nice. We had this interesting building with a hole in the middle of it, which actually turned into a mural on the side of the building. And we found a lot of other interesting street art as we went along in town. I guess the biggest change we noticed was the harbor front, where we used to side tie all of our boats to the quay, is now a great big marina. And it's in front of high rises and apartments and everything else that's different. For instance, this is where we used to walk to the store in the morning to get our French bread, and now they're having marathons and doing that sort of stuff right along the waterfront. But the market's in the same place, selling a lot more interesting kinds of things. Of course, a lot of it is touristy. Very colorful, the sarongs that they had out there. But in the weekends, especially on Sunday morning, it turns into a big, big market. Mind you, that market starts at 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, no way was I going to do that. But still, later on, say like 8 o'clock in the morning, it was interesting with lots of fruits and vegetables. And inside in the market, they also had lots of fruits and vegetables. They did that on a daily basis. And from the second story, you could get a good eye view of that, plus the souvenir end of the market, which had all kinds of straw works and carvings and hats. I tried to buy a hat, but none of them fit my head.
Okay, let's test it.
One of the things that was interesting was a collection of jewelry. The shell leis were still the same, and I still have quite a number of them that I got when we were there in Tunisia, but now they have more decorative art forms of it. And lots of other knickknacks and carvings and, I don't know, stuffs that tourists buy, I guess. Great music was the same, though, and we really enjoyed listening to this group playing at the, I guess a community center you'd call it, where they were showcasing some of the island's production of handicrafts. A whole big part of the market is dedicated to flowers, and they had not just sort of tropical flowers, but all kinds of interesting flowers as well. And the ladies were there. They were fully engaged in making leis and coronas, like she's doing there. I seemed to be all thumbs when I tried it, but she's doing a beautiful job. And some of the leis and the crowns are really, really gorgeous. And Sunday was the only day we saw where they had barbecued meats and sausages, a pig's head. You want a pig's head? There it was. And lots of fish. Interesting kinds of fish, reef fish, but also some that was frozen. And of course you could have your fish cleaned and filleted for you. Tuna looked pretty good. So if you're thirsty, you can get some fresh sugarcane juice. Of course, the best part of going to any market is the people watching, and certainly the market in Tahiti was a prime example of that. One of the few places we found that we remembered was the church. So we visited there on a Sunday and listened to the singing. The waterfront is just totally different than it was when we were there. but also, as well as big private yachts, they had room for a couple of small cruise ships. This is one of the Windstar line. We made friends with the young ladies and the gentlemen at the Visitors Information Bureau, and they gave us all kinds of good tips. We rented a car one day and drove around the island in traffic on the left-hand side of the road. We ended up at Point Venus, where in 1769 Captain Cook stopped with a group of men of science, and that was on his first voyage around the world, and they were there to observe the transit of Venus. Later on, you had other visitors there, but a lot of things were, Tahiti-like. You got a stone tiki in an old, a recreated graveyard, typical kind of graveyard from the old times, and those red markers are the grave markers, and they didn't really have a name on them, but they had the clan. Well, then we went on our voyage on the Aranui, and that's a separate video. But when we came back, we went to Moorea for 3 days. And again, we had been in Moorea in 1967, so a long time before. We took the ferry from Papeete over to Moorea. It's not very far, it's 30-some miles, and it takes about 45 minutes to get over there. And a really nice modern ferry, and easy, not very expensive. We had rented a place in this little guest house, the Motuiti, and we had our own little bungalow right on the edge of the lagoon. Very nicely furnished, complete with a little fridge and a very nice patio. We felt quite comfortable there. The only problem was there wasn't anything around it. So after waiting about 45 minutes one day for a bus, we decided that the only thing to do would be to rent a car. Yeah, it rained, but only, in short showers. And there was a restaurant at our little guest house. I had a salad, one lunch, and Al had a fish sandwich, which looked really pretty good. So we found out that if you want the bus to stop, you put a branch down in the road. Well, you had to wait too long for the buses, so we rented a car and started driving around the island because we were looking for the same place where we had taken pictures of our boat in 1967. So we kept driving around watching for the bay and the peak to be in the right places at the same time, from the memory and from pictures that we had with us. In the end, we had to tromp through a woman's garden to try and find the exact correct viewpoint, but I think we did. And she was a real sweetheart, and she was very gracious, allowed us to find exactly the right place where we could take the picture, where we have pictures from before. This is a 1967 picture, and it's just from the same area where we were. I loved the shadows, the suns and the shadow patterns on those hills every day. It was different and ever-changing. That was our boat, BACCHUS. She was a 40-foot ketch, and she sailed us slowly and comfortably around the world, and I guess gave us this bug to keep doing it again. Of course, other than the small Motuiti pension like we had, there were pretty, all-in-one kind of resort places on Moorea as well. We had this little car, and the little car just, drove us right along. The houses, most of them had fences or sometimes walls in front, but beautiful tropical foliage growing everywhere. And here's one of the little churches that we passed by on our way. The church has steeples, and the island has steeples. The beaches look pretty nice, and there certainly was water activity. most of the places where we went. Hey, this is the large crested tern at our place. And these guys are red vented bulbuls. And they're really friendly. And they'd come eat Cheez-Its out of your hand if you happen to have any Cheez-Its, or probably anything else you've tried to put in your hand. So we enjoyed Moorea. It was a nice sort of a downsizing from the cruise that we had just taken.